Okay, so here's part 2, which is actually part 12. Daniel 12:4 is talking about Ayin Dalet, Ayin Tav, until the time. Hide the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Gabriel speaking to Daniel, last chapter of the book of Daniel. Well, if I look, Daniel is approximately 500 BC. And if I say, what did Daniel, I've asked a lot of people, hey, are you familiar with that verse? No, most of them aren't. But even if they are, it's like, well, what did Daniel hide? Hide the words and seal the book, Daniel. What words did Daniel hide and what book did he seal? What scroll was locked up? Well, talks about a sealed scroll in the book of Revelation. Revelation that John saw was written 600 years later. What did Daniel do? Hide the words and seal the book until the time. Is Gabriel, the archangel, telling Daniel, your job, Daniel, your Aleph, Daniel, is to hide the words, and it will remain so until the time. Well, until the time is written, Ayin Dalet hyphen Ayin Tav, 2 words hyphenated, yoked, vaved together. Well, if you break this apart, which we've talked about numerous times, ayin means, the word ayin is eyeball, drawn like a fruit. It's round. It's got a pupil in it. So the fruit body with the seed got a little stem sticking out, maybe, or unless it's a circle of it. But the idea that the word ayin literally means observe, look, consider, weigh carefully, balance exactly, determine carefully, specifically, figure this out. Put effort toward engaging the mystery. That's ayin. Well, then right there, Ayin Dalet, comprehend, in a simple conclusion of the ayin, comprehend the door. What door? Ayin Dalet. That just means until. Well, until means a progression in time until at a certain place in time, there's a door, there's an occasion, there's something that there wasn't previously. It's now and upon us. Ayin Tav is the word translated time. Yeah, but ayin means comprehend, and tav is a sign or a mark. A marker in time, like when the sun gets straight ahead with 0 shadows around anything, then that's 12 noon. That's a marker in time. That's understanding the symbol. That's understanding the significance. Significant, S-I-G-N, sign, significance. You look at the spelling of words and you realize that there's all kinds of clues already written as to what things mean. Can you interpret the marks, the tav, the letters of the alphabet? Do you know what the letters mean? And when you see what the letters mean, when you can comprehend the symbology, the graphics, the grammaton of the Hebrew alphabet letters yoked to regarding Yahusha claiming to be the door. So the Jews, we got no regard of that scoundrel claiming to be some stupid door. You know, we can come to the Father by ourselves. And Yeshua said, I'm the only door to the Father. No one gets in except through me. So if you fail to give him a regard by his own words, there's an exclusion going on. And it's like, what's the dynamic of the exclusion? Because did David recognize him? Did Abraham? Did Moshe? Yes, the Christians say yes. They all acknowledge the coming Savior who would be crucified and resurrected. And it's like, I can't find those verses. I don't know. I can see it in the alphabet, but I can't find the prophecies that I heard as a Christian were in there. There's 300 prophecies of the Messiah. Yeah, only none of them are prophecies. They're all innuendos, metaphors writ in, like Isaiah 6, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son. And it's like, it's not talking about Mary. There's a lady who was going to have a child, not necessarily even a virgin, but depending on how you translate that word. And that was 600 years before Yeshua was born. And the symbology was before that child who was born to that lady gets old enough to tell good from bad, those 2 kings that you fear will be gone. And the alliance that you're intrepidated by because they're threatening to come tear you apart, oh, Mr. King of Judah, it'll be annihilated. There won't be any threat. And Isaiah was telling him this is a timestamp. See the sign, Ayin the Tav, Yeah, but who's Yeshua? So I'm taking this, I'm seeing Ayin Dalet Ayin Tav is hide the words and seal the book until we can Ayin Dalet comprehend who is the real Yahusha. Well, he's yoked with or identified by ayining the Tav, understanding the meaning of the letters. Yeah, but what do the letters mean? The letters find their identity yoked to Yahusha. So Aleph isn't just ox, and Bet just house, and Gimel camel, and Dalet door, and Hey meaning the or to reveal, and Vav a connector, and Zion a weapon or something that cuts something off is a limitation. But that all speaks of Yeshua, Yahusha, coming from the heavens to the earth in a body, voyaging as the ambassador from the celestial to the terrestrial, to be born through the pelvic portal of the woman, Dalet, the Hay, the woman's Dalet, as Vav, the man who would be put to the weapon, slain. Specified. The word Zion Aleph Tav means this. So does Zion Hay, but this, what? Pay attention to this. And so when Pilate said, behold the man, Hine et Ishu, it's like he was declaring this man that we have now adorned with Roman weapons, a crown of thorns, the beatings, the whippings. That's all a prophetic metaphor. That's a great puzzle. So this Ayin Dalet Ayin Tav is the key to the mystery. And if he's just now allowing us to realize this, that the Jews won't because they won't look at Yeshua, that the Christians won't because they won't look at the Torah, then this is ours for us to exclaim. So I can read this. Now, to look at it in the Hebrew, you have opened. Well, just so you know, grammatically, you have can be written with prefix and suffix letters to the verb to open. The word open is petov het, but it's not just the word open. It means starting point, expounded, untied, developed, to regain sight, not blind, freedom of speech, just the concept of being free, and the word for eloquence. It's not just open. You have opened my heart. Well, the word heart is lamed bet. The B and the V are two different pronunciations of the same letter. So the English word love, L-O-V-E, comes from the Hebrew word lamed bet, which is the word for heart, which is pronounced either lab or love. It's also the word lava, and it means inflamed, but lamed is the prefix letter, means regarding or unto or by or for the sake of somehow. Bet means in, and yod is the suffix letter meaning my or me. So it can mean within me or inflamed like lava within me, like magma in the center of the earth about ready to explode through a volcano. So you have opened my heart. That's just the starting point, but it means to regain sight. Regaining sight, no longer blind. Two different concepts that if you're looking at these concepts, pondering them as the study, if someone said, okay, regain sight, have you ever been blind? I once flash burned my eyes with an electric panel box and couldn't open them for 3 days. People in my family have gone blind, and what a horrible thing. But to regain your sight, of the meaning of words, expounded, that's elaborated verbally, freedom of speech. Literacy has been used through the centuries by many people as a way of enslaving the masses. People were tortured for trying to learn how to read. That we have the freedom to not just know how to read, but to see what's in the language, to regain our sight that was once given to our ancestors, that was squandered and lost, and then to expound with eloquence. That's a blossoming. And then the word Yah, well, that's just the short poetic form of Yod Vav He. Instead of the tetragrammaton, it's the by, the do, tetragrammaton. But Yah means Yod, hey, Yod, he will, that's the Yod prefix, third person. Aleph would have been the first person. And then hey means to express. So he will express, or it's the working hand. He has built it to be comprehended. He has built it to speak. Somehow, everything that's built in creation speaks, but yet we haven't been able to hear or see. Patach atah, opened you, or aleph tav hey is the word translated you. So you have opened. There's two ways to say that. It's either prefix suffix letters around petav chet, or it's atah, meaning you, Yah, have petav chet lamed bet yod. But you see, this whole song is an elaboration of the chorus, which is Hodu la Ki Tov. Thank you, Yahweh, because of this full basket of explaining and providing what you put into the bet, which is everything that exists in the material cosmos, allowing me to see and allowing me to have access to comprehending, and thus then making use of the totality by engaging these letters. Your voice, kol leka, kufav lamed kaf, but kufav means hope. Lamed kaf means like leka, lek leka, of you, by you, you're leading, you go. As hoped for that you would, by you, of you, kufav, kava. You know, we've always hoped that he would do this. We'd always hoped that one of these days we'd understand, we'd see, we'd be unchained, we'd be free. He'd rescue us. One of these days is that now you'll establish your kingdom, you'll give your kingdom back. Is this the first phase, the starting point, the Petav Chet, the starting point of him giving the kingdom back to Israel? And Yeshua said, you know, my burden is easy and my yoke is light, no big deal. Well, Kuf Lamed literally means, hey, I can do this. This is light. This is easy. No big deal. But it also means, what a worthless waste of time. I'm not going to waste my time with that. It's no big deal. Kuf Lamed can mean both. So this is Kuf Av Lamed Kaf. Anyway, I could go through every one of these words for the whole thing. We'd be totally out of time to do that. I'll go through some of this just so you know, or we can elaborate more if you want another occasion. But the Mem Ayin Vav Lamed Meolam, of old antiquity, eternity past, ignited my hasana. Well, there's three words for ignition or ignited. Interesting that Lamed Hey Zadi Yod Tav. Well, Zitzi, that's like something that's, whoa, catch your attention. That's the same spelling. Zadi Yod, like Zion, Zadi Yod Vav Nun, is that he gives a command, but his commands to be like, whoa, hey, a flash, a sparkle, a something going off that you pay a loud explosion that you pay attention to. There's also Dalet Lamed Kuf, which means to chase or pursue. So you could say, well, yeah, I'm interested. Are you chasing and pursuing what he's opened your heart to, or are you just waiting for it to do something? Again, this is this proactive, what do we do with our life and time, our energy? It's like, I got to chase this stuff down. That's my determination. The other word is Lamed Hey Bet. Hey Bet is the word to give. Aleph Hey Bet. Hey means love. That's the Hebrew word for love. Lamed Hey Bet literally means flame, inspire, excite, and it's literally the picture of the blade of a sword or knife. Lamed Hey Bet literally refers to the blade of a knife. So when we see a sword coming out of Yeshua's mouth in the book of Revelation, is that just being a picture? Yeah. Okay. What does it mean? Well, it means, well, what comes out of your mouth? Words. It's dangerous. Yeah, but a sword is the word, the blade of a sword is lamed he bet, which means flame, inspire, excite. So for him to come back in Revelation 19 on this white horse and the hosts of heaven, the Zavot following him, he's got a sword coming out of his mouth. Is he killing anybody, or is he just exciting people with his word? Isn't that what's going on with this study? That he's exciting us with his words, having opened our heart to the reality? And that he's the one causing it. Yah, Yod He. He, by his hand, he is causing this expression, this occasion to be now, at the end of the 2,730-year curse of obfuscation, of bewildering loss. With Aleph through Tav, he ignited my hasana, ignited the structure and the animation, my identity, my purpose, my being, my mind, my hidden for ages. Well, one word, there's a number of words for hidden, but one word for hidden is nun ayin lamed, which means to be furnished with shoes or boots. And as such, it's also the word that means lofty, sublime, and exalted. So, just as a picturesque, you see military boots. The word Ziklag was David's city. And literally, Ziklag means army boots. Or Ziklag is also this picture of you swat a hornet's nest, and those guys are coming out in a furious vengeance, finding who just whacked them. And I mean, that's the word Ziklag. But boots. See a picture of a cute girl with boots, and it's like boots just says something, does something. It captures they speak lofty, sublime, exalted, but it also means bolted, locked up, closed, concluded, out of publication. Like the Red Dictionary, that's it, we're done, no more. What? How can you do that? Well, so this word nun ayin lamed, the wonderful, it's like Israel was given boots, Yahweh's covenant. And it's like, this is not just nun ayin lamed, but these boots are kufresh nun, or horns. What? That's another word where it means radiant, but it also, that little interesting picture in Zechariah 2, the very first verse, or last verses of Zechariah 1, depending on the text you're reading where the chapter breaks. But the point is, he sees 4 horns, and then he sees 4 carpenters or craftsmen. What are the horns? Privilege, power, strength, splendor. To be Yahweh's people is one of the horns. To be able to read is one of his horns. To be granted the covenant is one of the horns. So what are the 4 horns that he granted his people, that they said this, and they threw it away? So the other nations came and grabbed it. I mean, see, once you start reading the symbology, there's a whole nother way to look into things. Because he had furnished his people with lofty, sublime, exalted boots for walking, halakha, and because they go this, and they threw them away, okay, you're locked out. It's occluded from you for 2,730 years, for ages. If you look at the word Dalet Resh or Dalet Vav Resh, that's generations and ages. You're turning the cue, but there's this one word spelled Hetav Kuf Vav Mem Mem Vav Tav. Well, Kum Kuf Vav Mem means to rise up. It also means to place down and be planted or be stuck in the ground like a post. So if you say, well, there's times, there's empires, there's principalities, there's jurisdictions, there's like the menorah has its branches. Each one of those could be seen as a type of kum. And then to see the prefix and suffix letters. So this word in the dictionary means placed, established, standing, fixed, authorized, confirmed, ratified, explain, sustain, carry out, uprising, revolution, upright, erect, and like the idea of principalities. In other words, he has determined dispensations. He's determined that certain principalities of human kingdoms or of spiritual entities, yet the rule, or like the constellations, the stars. We're just trying to figure out this stuff, but he established the stuff that we try to figure out. And he determined that it would be forgotten for a certain number of ages until now, in which case this is until the time for us to, wow, jump with it. The word for forgotten, 2-1, Shin Kaf Het, means forgetfulness, oblivion, amnesia, that he would cause us to forget. And the other one, Ayin Zion Bet, means abandoned, left behind. Like the caravan, like the wagon train coming across America, everybody loads up all their stuff, and then they found that the trek was too arduous, too grievous, and they started pitching stuff out. And I remembered hearing that a few decades after on the Oregon Trail, after the pioneers started moving across the country, the entire way was littered with baggage having been tossed, furniture and tools and all kinds of stuff, because the oxen just couldn't keep pulling the cart. You have to pitch your stuff. So for whatever the reason, whether he caused us to go into oblivion, or the people just had to get rid of it, Yahweh saw to it that his people absolutely forgot all this stuff we're talking about. And it became either Judaism or Christianity, or you might say Hinduism, Buddhism, Shintoism, Islam, some other religion. But for whatever reason, the time, the Ayin Tav upon us, Ayin Lamed Yod Nun Vav, Elenu, Ayin Lamed Yod, it means to raise up, brilliancy, supreme, promoted to a higher dignity, which is like Nun Ayin Lamed. Nun is the prefix letter of Ayin Lamed, and Ayin Lamed, like El Elyon, is the higher, the better, the upper room, the higher dignity. What he had given was obscured, was lost, forgotten, and this is bringing it back. This is the restoring. I really believe that what's in this language is critical, essential, fundamental to the restoration of the kingdom. Because the kingdom is not just the privilege of everybody else has to do what we say and we're the boss. It's us walking in his ways. It's us knowing Yahuwah's a vote, not some Elohim Achrim, not some different entity who cares nothing for his stuff, but it's the actual elaboration of his identity and intent of all his stuff, appreciating everything about who he is and what he's about. To exclaim, Het Dalet Dalet, Het Dalet is like Aleph Het Dalet, or Yod Het Dalet means one, uni mono, singular, but it's also sharp, pointed, apex, acute. Het Dalet Dalet means sharp, acute, joy, gladness, Resh Nun Nun, Ranan, ringing cry, shout of joy. This is an incredible occasion. I believe the entire world of history has been looking forward to this occasion that we're at right now, and that when it says all creation yearns, waits, almost like standing on tiptoe, as they say, just could it be now? And it's like, yeah, it might be now. It could be now. Why don't we act like it is? Why don't we function as if this is the reality that everybody's always been waiting for? And here it is, us now, and this is the until the time. Hodu, beauty, glory, splendor, majesty, praise, thanks, to glorify, to confess. Well, confess what? We've wandered away. We were stupid, our ancestors. We didn't know. We were taught wrong. Whatever the reason, we were astray. Bring us back. Jeremiah 31, the prodigal son story. Like what Peter said to Yeshua. Hey, what Yeshua said to his disciples, why don't you guys get out of here too? I mean, where are we going to go? You're the only one with the words of life. Kitov, because of good, the full basket, the welfare, the functionally sound, because it's all right here. It's all in this. This is everything. There's nothing lacking. Where else could anyone possibly go to look? Ki leolam chazdo, we talked about that before. Leolam is the forever, the future, beyond the horizon. Chesed, chet samik dalet, is tender loving kindness, but chet samik is refuge, samik dalet is secret, sod, family secrets. So the family secrets of his refuge that he has retained for us because of his tender loving kindness, he wants us to find refuge in him because his job is being Savior, Redeemer, Deliverer. And he's telling us righteousness, the word zadikah, is also the word to save, redeem, and deliver. You want to be delivered, conduct your life in righteousness. Do good. Do the right thing according to what he said. And if somebody says, you don't have to do what he said, that was nailed to the cross and done away with, well, then I perceive, using wisdom of calculation, that is a lie, a deception to get me to not do righteousness so that I won't have victory, so that they can continue to deceive me. So once I start looking at these words, I can say, there's stuff that I've learned in church, in school, in history, whatever you want to say, which is not in agreement with these words, with the different principles. And therefore, I have to choose to hold on to these words and reject, abandon the doctrines and principles which are counter to it. If he says the word zadikah means righteousness and victory, it means both things. Therefore, if I want victory, if I want to be delivered, I can't just say, Jesus died on the cross, I'm delivered. I have to do righteousness, and then I'll get delivered. Yes, Yeshua dying on the cross, plead the blood, has a merit, but it may not be the merit that excuses me from doing righteousness. And if I think it does, so I don't do righteousness, then that's a lie that'll bring me non-deliverance. Is that the way this place is built? Entombed until blossomed. Two words for tomb. One is kuf bet vav resh, kabur. And if you put a grave, is a mem kuf bet vav resh, or mem kuf bet resh. That's a grave. How would you pronounce that? Macabre. Well, that's like the word in English spelled M-A-C-A-B-R-E, macabre, macabre, silent R. So the word macabre or macabre, well, that's a grave. That's the dead, the place where the dead are. That's a purely Hebrew word, phonetically. But then there's this word tet mem nun, which means buried in the ground, like hidden treasure for the full count. Well, mem nun means to count. Tet's a full basket. But tet mem nun means entombed, something buried in the ground. It's like a picture of Yeshua being put into the tomb, the grave, is tet mem nun. For the full count, 3 days and 3 nights. Not Friday night to Sunday morning. Well, that's like the 2,730-year curse. That's like Yahuwah has things calculated, calibrated, timed, calendar, stars. So the people that are trying to figure this stuff out, for the sake of being his people on his proper calendar, I haven't determined these things for myself. So I observe different calendars because I can't tell you. I don't want to be wrong, but does that make me wrong automatically? This word tet mem nun also means something is out of use for Shabbat. In other words, certain things, certain utensils or certain clothing or whatever, traditionally, some Jewish person might only use on Shabbat. Certain candle, don't light that anytime. That's a Shabbat candle. Only light it then. It's like, well, okay. So it's tet mem nun. It's like you take it away, you bury it until the Shabbat, then you bring it out for Shabbat. Or the opposite, for Yahuwah to say, you guys are going to be overrun by your enemies, whipped, beaten, ground, killed, crushed, until you come back to my words. Until we come back and listen to your words, Deuteronomy 30. How do we listen to your words? Let's do that immediately. That's what this is, listening to his words. to fulfill the qualifications of tet mem nun, entombed, blossomed. A few different words can mean blossom. Mem nun zadi het manatzak. Triumph, perpetual, spectacular, brilliant, conqueror, overcomer. So when Yeshua says in the book of Revelation, to he who overcomes, that's that word, manatzak. Zeets, zadi yod zadi, shining, fringes, twitter, like hearing a bird chirp, breaking the silence with a blossoming coming out of the grave, zadi. Pei resh het, flourish, flower, bring forth. Then the word tav vav pei yod ayin, phenomenon, shine forth, brilliant appearance. Entombed until blossomed. There's some flowers that will only blossom once in a year for one, even at night. And that's it, it's done. But in other words, you're not necessarily going to see this thing growing. There's certain things that just happen suddenly. And then there's this phrase, 7 eyes, 7 horns, the key to your mystery, kabashat et shava. We talked about this in Revelation. I think it was, what was it, chapter 6 or 7 or something, where the one on the throne is holding this scroll and it's got the seals. And suddenly there's some kind of game being played up in the heavens. And he says, okay, can anybody find how to open these seals? And it says all the angels in heaven were looking high and low in the heavens and the earth. They're looking all around and they can't find anybody to open the scroll. Why didn't they just ask Jesus? Isn't he sitting right there? Why didn't they just say, he knows how to open the scroll, just ask him. That wasn't the game. See, it depends on how you read the staging. The one sitting on this throne is holding a scroll, 7 seals, and suddenly everybody's looking all around. I mean, is there thousands, millions of angels in heaven and earth, all through the various dimensions of various galaxies, universes, and they're searching everywhere, and nobody can find a key, a method, an answer to the riddle of how to break open the seal. And then John, who was observing this, was, I guess, starting to get really upset. And the angel says, do not weep, for behold, there is one. Jesus? No. The slain lamb. And that slain lamb happened to have 7 eyes and 7 horns. And it's like, what? It's a key. It's a mystery. What's in the picture? What's the word 7? Shin bet ayin. Yeah, but not only does it mean 7, it also means to swear a vow or to get cursed for not keeping the vow. And it's to swear an oath where you're now under obligation with dire consequences if you don't. You are now obligated to keep that vow. That's 7. What's eyes? We talked about that. See, comprehend, evaluate, consider, know what's going on. What about 7 horns? What's a horn? Kufresh Nun, glory, privilege, might, prestige. It's Kufresh Yod Nun is the keel of a ship. Kufresh Aleph means a reader of scripture. Radiant beam. So Samson had these 7 dreadlocks. It was a picture, a statement of the same type of thing. 7 horns, 7 dreadlocks. What's he saying? Understand that there's a sworn vow, like the keel of a ship. Learn how to read scripture. It'll keep you on the straight path of fulfilling the vow. And if you don't, you get cursed. Is that what 7 eyes, 7 horns means? What about the lamb that was slain? Abraham in Genesis 21, verse 30, he's making a deal with, I think it was Abimelech. There was a squabble over who dug the well. And Abraham said, I dug this well. I had my men dig this well. And the other guy says, no, you didn't. It's like, oh, come on. Don't you know who's got dirt under the fingernails? Who dug this well? Isn't it clear? They finally settled that Abraham did dig this well. And so they write it up as a contract. So forever we'll know this is the property line. And Abraham gives 7 ewes, 7 sheep, 7 female sheep he gives to this guy. And the guy goes, what's this for? And he says this phrase. so that you will know that I dug this well. These sheep will be testimony. So every time, maybe they were different colored sheep. Maybe they were, say, black sheep and the other guy had white sheep or something, but there's something distinctive about these 7 ewes. And he says, every time you see these sheep, you'll remember I dug this well. Okay, so what? That's kabashat. Kaf bet shin is ewe lamb. Tav is the plural, so that means use. But it also means, I put the kibosh on it. Put the kibosh, that's pure Hebrew, and it means conquered, to be pickled in a jar, to be brought into bondage. It also means secret, killed, stopped. Kibosh. It's the same word for you. EWE. 7 vows, a 7-phase vow. That's the Mishkan pattern. To say, here are these 7, package of 7 vows, that's like the 7 Moedim. For Yahuwah to say, I gave you 7 Moedim. I told you to keep them. That's your vow, to do what I said. And if you don't keep them, you get cursed. I told you to keep the 7th-day Sabbath. And if you keep it, you get blessed. If you don't keep it, you get cursed. So for the last 2,000 years, and particularly, it's been taught, change the Sabbath day and don't keep the Moedim. So we get the curse. So our enemies get to prevail over us and own everything that we should be owning, receiving the privilege, the use of the privileges, the horns, and the understanding, the eyes that we should have, they have, and are keeping our horns truncated, cut off, and our eyes blinded. Damn. How did they pull that off so easily? Kabashat et shavah. So when he says, take these from my hand, that's what Abraham said. Take these from my hand. Well, that's what Yahuwah is telling his people. Take these Moedim from my hand, my heart. So for us to keep the Moedim and keep Yom HaShabbat is us telling Yahweh, take these from my hand, my heart. All I can give you is my obedience, is my walking in your ways. All I can do from my heart is say, I'll sit down on Shabbat for you. I will observe your Moedim. Believing, hearing, guarding. That's all I can do. That's all he gave us. He didn't give us a tool set that we could go out and build something. Solomon building the temple wasn't to Yahweh's grandeur necessarily, but us receiving of his hand, his heart, his Shabbat and his Moedim and his words, and saying, I'll read, I'll learn to read. Take these from my hand, my heart. Leodah be'abur, that is a testimony. Be'abur means that it will serve to. See, the word Hebrew means to cross over, but a translation is to cross over, to interpret, to reveal the mystery is Hebrew, Eber, to become pregnant. It serves to bring a new life into the world. So the way to translate this is that the word ayin bet resh, in this case, bet ayin bet vav resh, means it'll serve as a ferry crossing a river, a transport, a crossover. It'll produce the yield that. It's a vav, an intercalation, intercalated. I'm going to do this, and it's going to serve as that. Yahweh gave us the Sabbath day to serve as a sign that we're his people. He told us to listen, and then he gave us words to listen to. And then there's these 7 stoppages. Stop and celebrate. Stop and read. Stop and listen. Stop and party and feast. Okay, that's what he gave us. That's what was taken away. And then to say, we did turn away from you, but we've come home again. Jeremiah 31:18, Jeremiah 31:16, Jeremiah 31:20. The same word, shin vav bet yod, shin bet tav, rebel, regret, repent, return, captivity. Ephraim in Jeremiah 31 I rebelled, I regretted, I've repented, I want to return. Bring me home, bring me back, and I will come back. Shabbat, Deuteronomy 30. Then there's this word mem, ayin, dalet, nun. Well, ayin, dalet, nun is the word Eden. It means delicate, delightful, luxurious. Mem, ayin, dalet, nun, I delight in the delicacy of being, it also means to be chained and fettered. To be chained and fettered, I delight in the delicacy of being chained and fettered to you, Yahuwah. The Sabbath day is a chain. It's a yoke. It's a yoked to him. What a privilege. What an honor. And yet we've been taught that it's so other. Let us go with you. Zechariah 8:23. Nalaka amkam, because we have heard 10 men will grab a hold of the fringes or the zitzi or the kanaf of one Jew, one ish Yahudi, one man who gives praise and thanks, who hodes Yahuwah, and say, let us go with you, because Shemanu Elohim amcham. We have heard Elohim is with you. We shema Elohim, Shemanu Elohim, just like you do. Let's go in league together, kinsmen. And it's what Ruth said to Naomi in Ruth 1:16-17. It's Moshe in Exodus 33, verses 15-17, where Moshe says, if you don't go with us, Yahweh, then forget it. Forget it. We're going to camp right here. We're not going to go into the land without you. You go with us or we're done. It's what Peter said to Yeshua. Where else are we going to go? You have the words of life. Let us go with you. Yahweh, let us go with you. Our stiff necks we yield. He has said numerous times. The word stiff is kuf shin hey. The word neck is ayin resh pei. Haraf. His name. The guy who wrote Origin of Species, Isaac Moseson, was saying the word giraffe in English, Giraffe, giraffe, is actually an English phoneticization of this word ayin resh pei, haraf, which means neck. And the giraffe is Mr. Necky with the scruffy stuff growing on his neck. It's the Hebrew word. It means we've turned our backs. We refuse to understand. Rebellious, difficult, object to, contradict. Haraf also means to be beheaded and to drip. We've beheaded ourselves by a rebellion of not wanting to hear. That's what we've done. That's our predicament. We yield. Yah. Kaf nun ayin is where you get the word for Canaan, which literally means shriveled or folded wings, not big wings, but put your wings down. Shin bet resh, broken, crushed ruins. Ayin nun hey, afflict yourself with humble, make it your business. Yield. Surrender. Okay, we've surrendered. Yah, Baruch atah. David on that shield, Baruch atah Yahweh. 1 Chronicles 29:10-13. That was the powder blue shield with the gold letters. And then Kadosh la Yahweh. That's the word written on the headband of the high priest. That word Kadosh, betrothed, sacred, set apart, consecrated, purified, devoted, assigned, dedicated, prohibited for other use, like something on the Sabbath day, and sanctified unto Yahweh, by Yahweh, kadosh Yahweh. We are kadosh, anaknu. Anaknu also is a sighing reference of we. Is that sighing in grief or sighing in relief? We are kadosh Yahweh. He said all along, he just wanted his people to listen to his voice and walk in his ways. Kaishon ayenu, the pupil, the sparkle, the gleam, what's called the little man of the eye. Ish, ka-ish on ayin, his eye. When you look at somebody, because the spherical eyeball, what you look at is actually the image right on the center of the tip of your pupil. And it's like when he turns his attention, that his face shine upon us, that his face turned. Panav Aleka, mentioned twice in that Aaronic benediction. If he's looking in our direction, we'll be right there on his pupil. Well, how do we get that? We Shabbat in your presence. Kaishonaino literally is the heart of the eye, the pupil of the eye, the passion of the attention. We Shabbat in your presence. We Shabbat lifneka. Abenu Elheinu, our Father, our Elohim. Deuteronomy 32:6 and Exodus 4:22 talk about him being our Father. Our Elohim, Zechariah 13:9, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh is my Elohim, Yahweh Elohi is what he says they will say, my people will say, Yahweh Elohi, and I'll say, this is my people, where he's laying claim to us. Chafatzi Melkino, the word chafatz as in hepzibah, my delight, pleasure, desire, the will, wish, voluntary, capriciously. Caprice, where you get the word Capricorn, which is goat, which is giddy, which is jumping about, happily, joyfully, enthusiastically, goofily, capriciously, my pleasure, I just want to do this. Chafatz, Melkenu. Melech is king, but it also is mem, one who, or the manner in which laka, to you, take the counsel of halakha, of walking. He said, do this, I'm going to do this, I want to do this, how do I do this? Not just the word our king, but we are the ones who choose to take counsel of direction to walk as directed. And the word kaf nun, in this case kaf yod nun, could be read as yes, so truly thus. Yes, absolutely. This is the reality. Kraenu, kuf resh aleph, again, kuf resh nun is the word for horn. So kuf resh aleph is this, nun vav is our, but this is our horn, our splendor, our power. It also means to cry out and learn to read. Krayenu torna, talked about that last week. Tar, tavav resh, like aleph vav resh means searching. Torah would be the Torah instructions. Tavav resh nun is the person on duty. So it's our generation, it's our time. This is until the time, this is us now at this auspicious occasion in the history of the universe. Our turn in the queue. So the word torna also means scholarly, like Sinai, erudite study, enthusiastically, expertly, running with pleasure. And then the last phrase at the end of the song there, after the refrain there was chesedga, chesed. Your chesed is not just tender loving kindness, mercy, compassion, provision of secret refuge, sparing us. To those of us, if you look in the dictionary, it's ashamed and reproached. It's also lovely appearance. So to those of us who are ashamed and reproached, your lovely appearance of affection and mercy, promising us the provision of secret refuge. That's chazedka. Gadila. Gadil is to dress something up with braids, with ribbons, with banners and streamers and festooned columns. It's the word for growth, increase, evermore aggrandized, noble, honored, development, getting bigger and bigger, something in just keep getting bigger. Then you put a mem in front of it, Magdala, like Mary Magdalene, Magdala, hey suffix is hers, choice things, excellent, sweetened, magnified, enlarged, magnificent majesty. It's a tower, a turret. Raised, nurtured, lifted to greatness. So it's like the concept of the prima donna, the number one beautiful, like this, the star ballerina would be considered a prima donna, for example. But it's also the one up front, aggrandized. So it's the speaker. It's the like the Manatzak, the conductor. It's Israel, the nation of the world, that's given. But it's also an announcer, and it says something of corrected logic. And the word gimel dalet, gada, see lamed hey is the suffix meaning of hers, belonging to her, but Haggadah is a legend or logical analysis. So to correct the misappropriated legends and fables of religion and history and legal determinings with truth is also Magdala, which is what this stuff is about. Tafarta, that's the word we talked about with the headdress and the diadem, scenic decoration that Yahweh has adorned himself with his people. But if his people betray him, he's not going to wear them as a headdress. He'd look pretty degraded. Megadolor, whether there's an aleph there or not, is Megadol, so it's a tower of light, lighthouse, enlightening, illuminating, projecting. And there's this concept of this spiraling and this placement of mosaic. So there's these graphic pictures within the breakdown of the letters of the word. Then Ozeka, like the Oz, like the land of Oz, Wizard of Oz concept is Ayin Zion. Kaf would be your bastion, citadel, fortress, power and might, dynamic, grave, sharp, caustic, bold, firm, streaming and beaming rivers of light, your refuge of safety, Yahweh. And then I added this one thing, Anaknu Sharitka. We are your Shin Resh Yod, Sharit, Shin Resh Yod Tav. In the dictionary, you'll see that word means an Anachnu, Aleph, I will, Nun Het is where you get the word Noah. Nun Vav would be the suffix means we. Noah is to bring comfort and to bring it all down and to rest. But Nun Het, Nun is the word for grace or encamp. So it's also the word for coquette. So Anachnu Sharitka, Shar, remember, is prince. Sarah, or a Sar with a Tav would be princess or noble lady, noble woman, but it's also remnant. It's also the word for armor, heritage. So we're your little darling coquette. We encamp in your gracious mercy. We are your remnant. We are your noble woman. You look back at Jeremiah 4, where he just, you skanky hoe, and he just tears her apart, throws her out, but calling her back. Now, this is that time. And so the title of this thing, the name of this thing, Hakol Le Dodeka, the voice of your beloved. If Daniel in Daniel chapter 9 was going to offer up a prayer of restoration, if Nehemiah was offering a prayer of statement of hodu, of fact, we are the idiots, you're the one who did what you said, please forgive us and restore us and protect us. In the Song of Moses and Deuteronomy, was it 32 and 33? There's not much good there. It's all about we've been stupid, we've blown the whole thing, we've torn everything apart. We forced his hand to tear everything apart, but we're back. We're back. To make these statements of hodu, reiterating here, saying the other day, how do you give him praise and thanks? Praise the Lord. Hodu la Yahweh. Yeah, but hodu is also elaborate vocally, the splendor, the glory, the majesty, the acknowledgement that we have blown it, have been astray, but we're coming back. We want to walk in your ways. We want to keep your instructions. We want to not just sit down on Shabbat because we need a break, but look, we're in your face. We're keeping Shabbat. We want you to see us sitting down on your Shabbat. Because you said in Deuteronomy 30, when you return, you will return to these words. And that word return is spelled Shin Bet Tav. You won't know that unless you read it in Hebrew. Looking through every one of these words and these definitions blossoms. So the phrase entombed until blossomed, not just Yeshua, not just Israel, the words, and us ourselves, and the relationship, and his identity. It's part of the fractal pattern. In the Chet until Zadi, entombed until blossomed, after 3 days and 3 nights. And it's been nearly, since David was on track and Solomon received the being on track and then spun out going off track, it's been pretty close to 3,000 years. Because David and Solomon's kingdom was somewhere around 900 to 1000 BC. And if anybody can actually detail exactly which year, there's errors in the calculation of the calendar and this and that. And I don't know, they just say it's somewhere around 900 to 1000 BC. Well, that's like 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb since we last had, as it were, Yeshua walking with us, as we had David walking with Yahuwah until now. So I can picture us coming back to these words, this language, these ideas of valuing the instructions, valuing the imagery of Yahuwah revealing himself as each one of these letters, and the words composed by joining the letters together is literally Yeshua coming out of the grave. Is it now you'll restore the kingdom to Israel? And I personally just feel, in whatever value that is, that these saying Hodu La Yawah is blossomed. Hodu in what sense? Chesed Gad, Yadila, Magdala, Tafarta, Magdaloro, Zeka. You, Yahweh, have such lovely appearance. It is us who thought you were a big, ugly monster that couldn't be trusted. Oh, yes, you became the big, ugly monster on purpose, because that's the way we projected you and we turned away from you, and you said that would happen. And so you brought our enemies upon us and everything, like you said. That's human history for the last 3,000 years across the face of the earth. But you promised to bring us back. You promised to restore your favor. You promised to restore the land and bring us home to your great glory and honor. Make it so. Do it, please. Mimakomka, that we can see it in our day. And if us sitting down and us learning these words can facilitate, put a drop of fuel in that tank to drive us to that definition, then make it so, Yahuwah. Whatever it takes, whatever I can do to facilitate that occasion with my intellectual pursuits. Really? Has he given each one of us that powerful effect? Astounding. That you can ponder his language, listen to his voice, observe his Shabbat, and you can be affecting the mechanics of the universe, the way human history plays out. Who is like you, Israel? Nobody. To be his people is just beyond the comprehension that he would so entrust us with this privilege, this responsibility, this obligation, this grandeur of being yoked to his reputation, his Shem. Just astounding. Anyway, we're basically at the end of time here. Paul, your mic's coming in and out. Do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah.
Please.
I believe it. 100%. We are making a change. I've got vibration on. Yeah, we're making a change. Can you hear me, Eric?
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. You know, if words and vibrations create the earth, then our pondering and the vibration of our repeating the Hebrew words, returning to the pure tongue, then how else would Yahuwah desire for his people to change and create what he's proposed us to do, but to study, search, ponder, and repeat the patterns too, repeat the patterns of the Mishkan in our life. Amen. Yeah.
It's an active tool. It's a weapon in our hand, is the words of our voice.
Yeah.
Repeating his words, giving him hodu. Such a simple thing, such a mystery that has baffled the wisdom of all the great ones.
We're pondering the pattern of the past to replicate what he wants in the future, which is the wonderful thing I see we get from this. You know, without understanding the intent of the letters in the words as you're bringing forth, we can't really ponder the full picture. For a start, the mission, his pattern. We can't ponder the picture of his pattern. So thank you. You know, and I'm not much of a learner, but it's just you know, the more I familiarize, the more I listen to you, it's going in, bro. So you're teaching me through that process. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Okay, Kurt, you're ready to shut it down.
Yeah, thank you, Father, for this time together, and bless everybody, keep everybody safe. In His name I pray. Amen.
Amen.